You have returned. I deem that admirable, but also foolish to believe that you could survive audio stories 3 terrifying tales. But without further ado, let us begin. Did you know there is an email that lets you decide how you want to die? Nobody knows how it works, nobody knows why it's there, but it's there. How it works is simple enough. All you have to do is send how you wish to die, and your wish will be granted within 5 days. You don't need to be specific, you don't need to put any extra, you don't need to put any of your information, they just know. And once you send it, there's no turning back. Did you wish to die from a stabbing? Did you wish to die a hero? Did you wish to die from something inappropriate? Your wish will be granted. People die in their own beds from hooded figures stabbing them to death. People die saving others from fires. People die doing something inappropriate. People die. I want to die. I desperately want it to end. Life is impossible for me to continue to go through and not want to live it anymore. But I'm too much of a coward for suicide, so I went for a better option. I didn't want to die painfully. I didn't want anyone to mourn over my death. All I wanted was to leave this world peacefully and let everyone who used to be in my life live their own wonderful lives. So, I raised my fingers over my keyboard and typed, I want to die painlessly and not have anyone weep over my death. 1 day passed and I'm still alive. 2 days passed and I was still alive. 3 days, 4 days. The 5th day of the party, I came over to my brother's house along with most of my family. Today was the day of his birthday. Everyone else was singing and laughing, and yet I was sitting in the corner on my phone. I should have known it was a scam. I should have known it was fake. I just wanted to die painlessly, not have anyone suffer over me. So why wouldn't it happen? Why wouldn't I die? Then I got a notification. I went pale, realizing my wish had came true. You didn't need to put any info in your email. You don't need to put any extra details in your email. And you don't need to be specific in your email. But God, I wish I was more specific. I looked at my family enjoying themselves and completely unaware of what was about to hit them as the words ballistic missile burned into my mind. I sat in the corner and pressed myself against the perpendicular walls. The warmth of the tiles beneath me soaked into my clothes, making them heavier than before. I clutched onto my balloon so tightly my hand was numb. Breath uneven, I waited until the pallid light flickered off. Darkness consumed my body, and I knew I had temporarily disappeared once again, granting my brief sense of relief. I thought of what I would do if he found me. It would only be a matter of time. No one else around the building other than the 2 of us. The rest had already been taken, swallowed whole by the screaming shadows. It would only be a matter of time. The door opening swiftly, swishing against the floor. The sickly dim light returned in a response to the movement. Quiet footsteps sounding against the tiles that led into my hiding spot. My heartbeat quickened, my breath hitched. I was overwhelmed suddenly. It was him. Who else could it be? When only he and I were in the building. He had stood just outside the stall I was in. My hand weakened when I visualized how he might look. The balloon trailed away from me and floated towards the ceiling just as he pushed open the door. He hadn't checked underneath to see my feet were there. His face contorted in horror, and then he screamed. The flickering light shone through my balloon, and I washed his face in a vague red hue. I grinned, feeling my teeth graze against the blood that covered my lips. I stood abruptly, my shoes squeaking and sloshing against the blood that coated the tiles in warmth. I could almost see my red nose and white painted face in his fearful eyes. I could see my grin as I neared him. When I took him, he squirmed helplessly, and I saw the shadow of his struggling body stretch along the walls all around us. I'd cloaked him in darkness, and he was soon gone. The only remnants of him left was just his hair. Well, I would have to be a creep to eat hair. Danny DEETERS rubbed his painted black eyelids. He looked at the clown face staring back at him from the mirror. His massive frown a monument to misfortune and misjudgment. He didn't want to be a clown, but it was the only job, surprisingly, he could get away with being a recent convict and all. Some state law bullshit that had given him a chance at a decent paycheck, and despite how humiliating it would be if anyone recognized him, it was better off than flipping burgers next to an acne-riddled punk. Besides, before jail, Danny was a good father. Miserable husband, but good father. He liked kids. Within 20 minutes he was at the party. A sign or front point to the backyard before the wooden gate. A man and a woman stopped Danny. Our boy Caleb loves clowns, so please don't feel overwhelmed. He's just excitable. No problem. That's okay, I guess. Danny waited for his cue. An introduction several minutes later, he came out in honking and horning and booing and hooing because he forgot a birthday gift. He made a quick balloon animal, something he'd learned in jail using not balloons, and presented it to the birthday boy as an apology. The boy Caleb did not take the balloon. Arm outstretched. Danny stood there for several seconds. Don't want to take it? Yucks. How about this one? And he pulled out a big handkerchief gag. You want to take this one, birthday boy? He slapped the colourful cloth in the kid's hand. The boy continued to stand there, unmoving, cloth closed in fierce fists. Danny began to sweat. You know what the funniest thing about being a clown is? Dead silence. Danny looked around, and a surge of anxiety rushed over him. About 10 kids surrounding him, all of them staring in complete silence. The parents seemed to be missing. He was trapped. Trapped between a bunch of 10-year-olds? That's all they were. 10-year-olds. So why was he suddenly scared? You want to know the funniest thing about being a clown? Danny asked again, spinning around, looking into each kid's eyes. They looked so menacing. A few words came from behind from the boy, Caleb. Their taste just sent a surge of pain erupted from Danny's lower back. He cried and fumbled his arm behind his back. He felt the handle of a knife and something wet. His face had felt hot from the paint, but now it was cold. kid stepped forward, holding barbecue tools, and she was smiling. Punch them, kick them, Danny thought to himself. He hit one of the kids in the head, but then his heel screamed out and he stumbled to the floor. Danny the clown felt more things enter his back. The last thought that he had was of children, and how he still liked them, even now.